Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tailgate Talk. We're your hosts, David and Nick. Nick, side of the people.
Howdy.
So we've got a couple things to talk about on this episode with what's going on just in college sports this past week. Of course, we'll take our first focus at Clemson men's basketball. Had two games this past week on Tuesday night on Bally Sports, which no one could watch, um, against who they play in.
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest. Unfortunately, Tigers came up short in that game, but rebounded. Look at that pun on Saturday against the Hokies at home. So Clemson going 1-1 for the week in the ACC, dropping their first ACC loss, and sitting at 24 in the AP poll right now. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Um, Obviously it's still a great team. I think it's just showing that Chase Hunter and Alex Hemingway are missed dearly. It would be I don't know whether or not they're gonna be playing soon. Uh Brad keeps saying that they're close, but it's truly a day-to-day, week-to-week type thing for both of them. So hopefully they're back soon because I think it's proven that we need them on the court.
Agreed. I mean, it's
But
so you look at that first game. I feel like Clemson just couldn't buy a rebound. Um, offensively, it's tough when you've got a young guy making his first career start with Josh Beadle. I mean, he did relatively okay from what I could tell from the stat line. Um, but it just felt like, Clemson just kind of ran into a buzzsaw that day where Wake Forest was playing really well, was able to get to the free throw line and just, Clemson's defense wasn't where it needed to be in order to win that game. The offense, I think, did relatively fine. I think they scored like 70 points or something like that, but defense just didn't have enough of the energy, I think.
yeah, and I mean, going on the road in a conference game is always hard to win. So just again, not having two of your better players, it really adds up, and it's hard. It puts a strain on the people that are playing. They have to play a few more minutes, and it was just like you said. Wake Forest came out with their hair on fire, and they played very well. So they deserve to win that one. Um, we are bound to not go perfect in conference play, so it's okay that it happened. So
Mhm. What I like to see was the kind of the reset that Clemson had in Little John against Virginia Tech. They came out and were able to get that and able to win that game. It wasn't pretty for sure, but they were able to match the intensity of the moment and come up with some big shots when it counted, and come away with the win against the Hokies and sweep the Hokies for the season in the regular season.
but oddly enough, that is not enough to be ranked higher than them in the net rankings somehow. I don't understand it. So
I mean, we can get into the
you
net
know,
rankings if you want. I think it's a waste of time,
I don't
just
think
like the
they warrant
rankings
discussion because
themselves.
they're just that bad.
Yeah, I mean, how you
Yeah, I
can
mean,
beat a team twice and have them jump you after you beat them, I don't understand. Whatever
and the
the
only
formula is that rankings is determined from, I think they need to check that formula again.
and the only metric that Virginia Tech's better than at Clemson is the quad four record because Clemson has two losses to quad four teams. I mean, every other thing that Clemson's better at. So I just don't understand it. It's and like you said, it's not worth it to talk about. So just funny. But Virginia Tech is currently beating Duke right now. I don't know if it really matters for Clemson. Probably would want Virginia Tech to win this one just because they already have seven conference losses, but they are up by five right now.
I mean, for Clemson, I think it's very simple men's basketball wise. Just keep doing what you're doing. You'll be in the dance. Uh, and who knows? I mean, if you what I for me, I think a really good target is to try and secure a top seed in the ACC tournament. That'll help you out a lot, just with the path and uh, just because of their pedigree and those quad four losses, I probably think Clemson, their ceiling's probably at like a sixth seeding. And that's if they win, I think, the HC tournament and everything. I have a feeling they're more likely going to probably finish in the 8 to 10 seed range. It just seems to be where they get slotted when they're playing well, but we'll see.
I see. I think they can get a top four seed in a region. It just depends how the rest of the season goes.
Yeah, we'll see. So that's Clemson men's basketball. The other tune that I think we wanted to talk about was what's going down in Florida with their recruit. Their top rated quarterback offered $13 million in NIL money, and then that check it didn't clear, it bounced, and he hasn't enrolled in any classes at this point. I think he's now in the portal. How you can be in the portal when you haven't even, or is he? I don't know what exactly is going on with that situation. It's very confusing. It's the first time I think we've ever seen anything like this. So very
So
weird
they're
circumstances going down in Gainesville.
trying to get them to release him from his letter of intent. So, if anything, like you said, he's not enrolled. He could just take that signature back and then sign with a new school and just enroll in the summer. Um, I've been reading up a little bit about it, and people wanted to stress it's not the school, it's the collective. But I mean, it's just a bad look for Florida in general.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. You look at it and you're like, hey, you're willing to shell out $13 million to a high school kid who's not been on campus yet, um, unproven, even though he's a highly rated recruit. I mean, there are plenty of recruits that show up and aren't quite ready, or it takes them a while, and made promises to him. And when those promises weren't fulfilled, he said, "All right, that's it. I'm done. I'm ready to go, ready to bounce."
It's also so risky to give that much money to like you said, a high school kid who's never played at the collegiate level because no one knows. You're not guaranteed to have success at the college level. Like you're going from being the best at your school to being just another guy in most instances. So it's crazy to me that 13 million was even offered. I think it's absurd. That's I mean, never blame the kid for an NIL deal because they're not the ones being they're not holding these people at gunpoint. They're being offered this amount of money. I just think it's absurd that that much money was offered to a kid who hasn't played at the collegiate level, and like you don't know what's going to happen. And this is exactly why is now Florida looks and it's like mud on their face. It's bad. So it's not a good look. That's why you got to be careful when you give out these NIL deals to these top recruits. You never know if they're going to pan out or even attend your school. So
Yeah,
lesson learned.
I think this is what you're going to start seeing happen more and more, as programs are trying to curry favor with the top recruits. They want the best recruiting class. Um, but with the transfer portal and just the whole mess that is going on right now with college recruiting and just the transfer portal in general, you know, you're going to see these donors, the NIL collectives, the funds are going to start drying up as recruits don't pan out the way that they hope. And not just like for certain schools, I think across the board, because you're going to look at, say, USC had a lot of money being thrown around for the NIL deals, like with Jordan Addison and everything like that. And in the end, he was there for 1 year, and I don't think he really produced at what they were hoping for, in the sense that they wanted to be in the playoff, and they thought that he was that missing piece with everything else they brought in from the transfer portal, and were willing to offer him NIL money, and in the end he's I think that the sense I got was that they thought that they were supposed to get more from him, and he still balled out and played well, but that's kind of the thing. Now that you're starting to put money in these guys' pockets, it becomes a job. It becomes a requirement that they need to produce.
Yeah, I agree. If that was the reasoning that they thought they were a wide receiver away, I think that Lincoln Riley had no self awareness because that defense showed why they were not ready for a playoff. If they were going to do any big NIL deals, it should have been to people on the defensive side of the ball. It's one of those lines that schools have to tread now. Is they have to be careful allocating that many resources, whether it be through an NIL deal affiliated with them or not. So I guess boosters more so have to be careful. Is do you want to raise this much money for a kid that doesn't pan out, and then in the future they're going to be less likely to give that money, and it makes it such an important business decision to. I mean, now the boosters have to recruit too and make sure they're giving the money to the right kids. Because
Mhm.
if they get burned, like you think Florida's going to give out another 13? That Florida collective is going to give out another $13 million deal. They're not. I mean, they're going to be more hesitant to be giving that type of money out now. It's just a slippery slope, and it is crazy to think. I mean, I'm all for the athletes. Like, good for them. They're getting money when they need to. If you're a decision maker at a school or at a collective, you got to be very careful what you give.
Yeah, I think this is, it's the Wild West right now. Money's getting thrown around like crazy. And, like you said, not trying at all to say this is not a good thing for the kids, because if they're able, those NIL deals work out and they're able to make the money, then all more power to them. That's what, that the whole point is that you're able to capitalize on your name, image, and likeness. But it's these circumstances where, the NIL deals aren't exactly what was promised, or they don't come through at all. Now this kid has made a decision, changed everything, and might not be in a better position than he was before he transferred out or before he committed. And that's I think what the big concern should be, is that you've got people that are more concerned with the success of these programs than with the success of the kids.
Yeah.
And that's not what this whole thing was about. And so I'm all I can hope for, and I think all we can hope for, is that the people that are speaking in these kids' ears, their support system, their family, their friends, do have their best interest in heart, and that they're getting whoever they're getting advice from is really looking out for the kid and not just trying to make a quick buck.
Mm-hmm. And and it's just going to be interesting to see just how this all moves forward in the near future, and it's not going to be the same.
Mhm. And then I think it's going to come down to a point where I think there'll still be guys that try and fill their rosters through transfers, and NIL money is going to be a big deal, but I think you're going to get to some point where it's going to kind of reach a tipping point where all of a sudden you're going to look and see teams that have been built up from the high school recruits done without that kind of you know just trying to get the biggest names, and the team is going to be better off for it because you got the right kids in the right situations, who develop and are able to, become more cohesive. That I think then might get its chance to be the premier program type stuff. I mean, look at Georgia right now. They're not really building through the transfer portal. They're trying to recruit the right guys, the big, strong linemen, the um big receivers. That Stetson Bennett was a freaking walk on for Pete's sake. And you know try to keep it a family affair here, Nick. And I don't know. I see a lot of parallels with college basketball. Like look at Clemson this year in men's basketball being able to, be top of the ACC, which is the premier basketball league in college. And it's because they've got a veteran team that's very cohesive, playing tough defense. It's not necessarily they've got star players. Like, they don't have more talent than Duke. They don't have more talent than UNC or Kansas, but right now in the ACC, I know they haven't played anyone like I don't know. Kansas is playing later tonight, Nick.
You're naming all these
I'm
ACCs and
rambling.
all
All right,
that.
I'm rambling, but you get my point, right? I hope you get my
Yes,
point.
I do. And as much as I want to say that the ACC is the best basketball conference, I do think that the Big 12 has something to say about that. They recently, with UNC and Duke not being the same as they were, I think the Big 12 is kind of snuck in and honestly the SEC too. Everybody's kind of the ACC as a conference has kind of started to dip in performance across the board. Still a great conference for basketball, but I think that the other conferences have kind of caught up. Like look at Alabama; they're number 4 in the country right now. They're good. Kentucky, Missouri's been ranked. I haven't. Tennessee's always is pretty good, and you look at the Big 12. I think they had like 7 teams ranked, all in the top 20. Like there are a lot of good college basketball teams, and I think the ACC has kind of let other conferences catch up to them and maybe even overtake them.
Yeah, I still
Not really.
think that it's kind of like the SEC in football, where you may have these other conferences start catching up, but I think the ACC is still the the standard for what college basketball blue bloods look like. With Duke, with NC State, UNC, the Carolinas in general, Wake Forest. I think that whole Tobacco Road, it's just, historically great. And you're right. I definitely think with the new coaches that have taken over at Duke and UNC, it's going to take a minute, but they're not going anywhere.
I mean,
I
and
think in the end,
they were in the Final Four last year, both of them. So
yeah. So if
I
that's
just
if that's dropping off, then goddamn, I'll take that if I'm an ACC fan.
if I remember when Clemson beat Carolina in Chapel Hill for the first time ever. That Carolina team sucked. And I'm just happy we got the weight off our shoulders in that building, but that was we caught him at the very right time. It, again, I'm all for ACC supremacy here, but I think the Big 12 notably has caught up, and I'm maybe even overtaken. I mean, look, Kansas won last year. Baylor won, I think, 2 years ago, maybe even the year before. Like they're back to back champions. Like it, and I'm looking at I'll take a peek at the standings right now. Big 12 has, count them, one, two, three, four, five, six. So I was almost right. 6 ranked teams. Kansas State at 5, Kansas at 9, Texas at 10, Iowa State at 12, TCU at 11, and Baylor at 17. The ACC has 3 ranked teams: Virginia at 7, Clemson at 24, and Miami at 20. I think that I don't know. I know it's not. It doesn't really matter, but I feel like it's valid. Like people can say it. I'm looking at the SEC, and it's really just Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee. Because Texas A&M's they're they're okay. Kentucky's bipolar, and then you get to Florida, Vanderbilt, and Georgia. Missouri, I thought was ranked, but now I look, they're unranked. Arkansas has a good coach, and then the team in Columbia, Mississippi State, LSU, and Ole Miss. It's been a while since I've looked at the SEC rankings, so excuse me for that.
Yeah, well, a lot that's going to happen in college football coming up. College basketball, we're getting into it's the end of January. We got February, and then right after that is March. So, it's about to get real crazy coming up. March Madness right around the corner. I don't know, Nick, I think we got to do another one of our pick'ems with March Madness brackets. That'll be
I
fun.
think that would be good.
That would be complete chaos on who wins that.
Yeah. I won the regular season football, you won the postseason. So kind of even, we kind of have to have a tiebreaker here.
Yep. So I think that's all we got for you guys today. Let us know what you think, as we ramble on about nothingness, but hey, we try. As always, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.